Why would a man bury landmines in his own driveway? Not the fake kind, mind you, but one real enough to send a golf cart flipping through the air like a cheap toy in a windstorm. That's the question I was asking myself as I watched a fireball light up my pasture, bits of twisted metal raining down, while a neighborhood bigwig lay screaming, clutching his leg. That, my friends, was the moment the HOA learned they'd parked on the wrong damn property. Let me take you back to how I got here. Picture this. I'm Jake Harlan, levying on a 67-acre slice of heaven my family's held onto since my great-grandpa wrestled it from the dirt with nothing but calloused hands and a mule that hated him. It's not much to look at, just a creaky farmhouse, a barbed wire fence falling apart in places, 2 dogs named Rusty and June, 3 chickens that'd rather peck my eyes out, and a goat called Amos who thinks he's the sheriff. The driveway's so long you lose Wi-Fi halfway up, and the wind out here doesn't whistle like it does in the city. It hums, low and lonely, like it's carrying the weight of every season that's come and gone. It was quiet, the way I liked it, until the developers rolled in. They plopped down a gated subdivision right next to my land, called it Willow Grove Estates, which is a fancy way of saying beige boxes for people who hate fun. No creek, no willows, just a bunch of McMansions with yard signs and those creepy solar-powered garden gnomes. At first, I didn't care. They waved, I nodded, they probably thought I was the hired help. Then the flyers started showing up in my mailbox, me rural, non-HOA mailbox. Community reminder, all structures must complement adjacent properties. I laughed, thinking it was a joke. By the 10th flyer, with their underlined suggestions and veiled threats about property values, I had a drawer full of kindling. Enter Melissa, the HOA president, strutting up with a clipboard and a smile so fake it could have been shrink-wrapped. Lip gloss gleaming, heels sinking into my gravel, she introduced herself like she was running for mayor. Wanted to discuss VY soul harmony between my farm and her perfect little neighborhood. I offered her iced tea. She said no. I offered her a shovel and pointed to the manure pile. She didn't take that either, just promised to follow up with landscaping tips. What followed was a barrage of notes about my unsightly barn, my aggressive weather vane, and how my fence wasn't community friendly. I told her if the weather vane started shooting, I'd give her a heads up. She didn't laugh. The real trouble kicked off one night when I was fixing a porch light. Headlights crept down my driveway's low, like they owned the place. A white BMW SUV parked right where my gravel forks, one path to the barn, the other to my workshop. Then another car showed up, a black Mercedes, followed by a gray Tesla. They sat there, engines idling, until their lights flicked off and out they stepped, wearing matching windbreakers with Willow Grove HOA stitched on the back. They didn't knock, didn't wave, just marched through my pasture gate and disappeared into the woods like they were on a damn field trip. I didn't sleep. Next morning, I found tire tracks in my field and a chewed-up cigar butt smashed into my gravel. I confronted Melissa. She gave me this slow blink and said they were doing routine perimeter checks for the community. I asked when private land became their playground. She called my driveway unmarked and jurisdictionally vague. I said my dogs would be real clear if they caught strangers again. She didn't like that. Over the next few weeks, it got worse. Cars at night, coffee cups and wine bottles left behind, even a name tag once L. Prescott, board treasurer. I put up signs. Private property. No trespassing. Violators may feed the goat. They vanished overnight, even the ones I bolted to trees. I caught one guy cutting through my pasture, said he thought it was community green space. I asked if green space usually came with a goat that eats sneakers. He laughed. I didn't. The sheriff called it a CIVYL matter. Unless I had VY Deo or a direct threat. Suggested a gate. That's when it hit me they weren't just lazy. Willow Grove's main entrance was a half-mile loop to the highway. My driveway cut that in half, and some genius in their planning meeting decided trespassing was easier than fixing their road. I got cameras, flew a drone, caught it all on tape, cars pulling in, people walking out, heading for their back fence like it was a public park. I posted the VY Deos online. Melissa got them flagged as inflammatory. I emailed their lawyer, got a bot reply. The county said no one had filed for an easement, but Melissa had reported my driveway for safety hazards and bad lighting. The nerve. Then they crossed the line. One morning, I found Rusty and June locked in my workshop, whining, spooked. The gate was open, cameras disabled. Someone had been close too close. Signs, cameras, sheriff calls, none of it worked. They saw my patience as weakness, my land as their shortcut. So I stopped playing nice. I started planning. Not revenge, not yet, but something to make them feel watched, like every step on my gravel might be their last. It got bolder. One Friday, I came home from town with chicken feed and found 5 folding chairs by my tractor shed, a cheese plate, and an empty bottle of Pinot Grigio. 5 HOA board members, Melissa front and center, were sipping wine like they'd Airbnb'd my backyard. A sign I'd staked 2 days earlier. Private property. No parking. No picnics, was torn up and shoved under a purse. I unloaded my truck, slammed the tailgate loud enough to rattle their teeth. They barely looked up. One guy, maybe Greg or Brett, raised his cup and said, "Evening," like we were pals. Melissa chimed in. "This VYU's too good to waste. Hope you don't mind. We'll tidy up." I said I minded plenty, and if they wanted to play pirate on my land, they'd need a permit. She brushed it off, said my pasture was, technically unmarked, and communal. I let Rusty out. He's half cattle dog, half tornado. Didn't bite, just herded them so fast they dropped their cheese and spilled wine all over Melissa's blazer. I didn't say sorry. They were back by Sunday, not with chairs, but with orange driveway markers hammered into my gravel, 30 feet onto my land, with Willow Grove HOA stickers. Then laminated signs zip-tied to my fence. Community overflow parking. HOA authorization 17B. I tore them down. They reappeared. Trash started showing up, Starbucks cups with "thanks" scribbled on them, a yoga mat, a water bottle. I filed another sheriff report. Same. CIVYL matter. Spiel. Then came a yellow envelope on my workshop door, city seal. Urgent zoning complaint. Someone claimed I was running an illegal RV park with non-compliant dwellings and greywater discharge. It was my cousin's old camper, parked since his divorce. Now it was a public record, and some city inspector could show up with a fine. The complaint came with photos taken from inside my fence. Anonymous tip, they said. I knew who. That's when I dug into my grandpa's old files. He was a hoarder and a law nerd, a combo that made him insufferable but a lifesaver now. In a dusty envelope labeled County Rights 1947, I found a mineral rights grant signed by a judge with a name like a whiskey label, Elliot Vance Thornton. It covered my land and had one golden clause: the landowner could use deterrent-based explosive mining equipment to stop trespassers. Filed when dynamite was sold like candy, never revoked. I ran with it. I hit up auctions, scrapyards, and surplus stores. Got 6 rusted water heaters, smoke bombs, pressure-sensitive hoses, and unexploded ordnance, signs from a shady military site. Painted them war-torn green, scorched them for effect, and buried them half in the gravel where the HOA parked. Fake wires trailed into the dirt, just enough to spook. At the driveway's head, I staked a World War I-style sign. Mine area. No vehicles. Trespassers may detonate live ordnance. Next morning, I sipped coffee on the porch as Melissa's BMW rolled up, paused, then backed out like she'd seen a ghost. The HOA's newsletter announced a parking reassessment. I called it VY Tory. Peace lasted 3 weeks. Then my truck and F-250 with valid tags and a toolbox vanished. Tire tracks and a red tag on my gate read, Unauthorized Vehicle Abatement, Willow Grove HOA. A towing company in the next county had it, said Melissa called it. Abandoned blight. Cost me due law $487 to get it back. That night, a law firm's letter was taped to my door, an injunction. The HOA was suing for VY soil contamination, vehicular disrepair, and hostile landscaping. I laughed, then called my old army buddy, Cole Mason. He used to rig traps in Iraq, now did private security for folks who don't answer questions. He showed up with a van full of toys, motion sensors, heat lures, tripwire canisters, and one inert landmine casing that could make a hell of a noise. Plus one real concussive mine, small, loud, low radius. Bird deterrent. He winked. We rigged the tree line with flares and smoke, buried heat lures to mess with infrared, and planted the real mine 10 feet from where Melissa parked, marked with a test range, live training plaque. It looked like a forgotten military zone. We waited. The HOA planned a block-wide garage sale, with maps pointing to my pasture as open field parking. Arrows and all, ignoring my signs. The night before, I tweaked the mine's pressure sensor just enough to pop if a car got too close. Sale day, I sat on the porch with Rusty and June, watching minivans and golf carts swarm. Melissa directed traffic, yelling, "Overflow in the open lot!" A golf cart with balloons and a kid's lemonade stand veered into my pasture. It hit the mine. A perfect boom saw flipped the cart's back end 3 feet up. Balloons popped, lemonade cups flew, and the driver, HOA VP Harold, face planted in my alfalfa. Screams echoed. Melissa ran toward the smoke. Someone called 911. I flipped through a county rulebook, calm as Sunday. The sheriff showed up. Harold was bruised, shaken, but fine. Melissa stormed my porch, yelling about terrorism. I handed the sheriff the 1947 clause and pointed to my signs. "Clearly marked," I said. "Legal since before their cul-de-sac existed." The sheriff read it, eyed the wrecked cart, then turned to Melissa. "You sent people to park on a minefield?" She sputtered about her map. "You authorized saw?" he said. News vans rolled in. Headlines screamed, "Farmer mines driveway to stop HOA. Golf cart blast sparks war." My favorite. Melissa's misstep goes boom. The HOA sued for reckless endangerment and simulated munitions. My lawyer, a grizzled vet named Roy Calhoun, tore them apart. "Agricultural deterrence," he told the judge. "My client's only crime is outsmarting trespassers." The judge dismissed it. Their defamation countersuit flopped too. Trespassing on a marked minefield was their fault. Discovery Doc sealed their fate, emails about neutralizing farm elements, notes on managing Jake, a chat called Old-Timer Takedown. I'm 47. The jury loved it. I won a settlement big enough to rebuild the barn and then some. Willow Grove imploded. Harold quit, citing health. Gregor Brett claimed burnout. Melissa was ousted 6 days post-verdict. The county yanked their charter for governance issues. Their website died, meetings stopped, and the neighborhood went feral. Unmowed lawns, a pink flamingo, a green mailbox. Melissa fled to a pet-free condo. I built a 12-foot iron gate, welded with "Park here and perish" in red letters, and paved my driveway with spiked tiles and barrels stenciled with radiation symbols. It looked like a war-zone tourist trap. Nobody parked. Come spring, I added one last jab. At their cul-de-sac, I planted a green sign. "Community guest parking in adjacent field. Caution, unexploded ordnance." A QR code linked to a World War I mine wiki. The mines were gone, but the fear? That stayed. People remembered Harold's cart, Melissa's 3-point turn, the boom saw. Landmines don't always explode, but their shadow lasts forever.